3 weeks down in January, and I suppose 10 days to go. Yeah, 10 days to go, guys, in January, and cases are on our plate. Well. How much I have been waiting for this. Not really. But it has to be done, doesn't it? And I assume many of you are anxious and worried and fearful about cases. I see you. The thing is, cases are actually one of the topics in Romanian that many students approach it in a bad way, I would say. In a wrong way. I should stop using good and bad. So yeah, it's like the wrong way. The way you should approach cases is not as its own topic. I know this might confuse people, but this is really the way to approach cases. To talk about cases only when you have a piece of grammar that accepts cases. The other day I heard that cases can be a property of verbs. Like verbs can have cases. No, verbs cannot have cases. So that's why you shouldn't think about cases as a general thing, rather really a standalone thing depending on the parts. And by parts, I mean exactly what you saw in Gramatica Limbii Române a while ago with parte de vorbire. So like a piece of speech. And by that, we mean verbs, nouns, adjectives, pronouns, articles, prepositions, and more. The others are adverbs and so on. But I would say if you stick to those that we talked about in our checklist and our series so far, you would be good. We will go into cases, not too deep. I want to clarify some things before you start learning them properly, and to hopefully get away some of the confusion created with cases. As always, please like the video. It really helps the Romanian Academy. Also, find the links and all the materials, the places you can go to in the description, and the useful materials in the pinned comment. Subscribe to the channel if you feel this is useful. We have plenty more things prepared for you in the months to come. And if cases are something that really bother you, don't forget we have a whole playlist about cases that we're going to talk about in a second. But before we do that, and as a little caveat, I want to dive a little deeper into what I said earlier. Cases should be a topic that you think about on its own only at the very beginning. Only at the very, very, very beginning. The reason is because the cases are really ways to, I don't want to say think, right? But they are ways, roles, let's use the way, well, roles is not really the way to think about it, but okay, let's just give up. It is a way to think about things. I didn't want to say this word, but it is what it is. Cases are ways to think about different words, different nouns, different adjectives, different pronouns, different articles, different prepositions. Cases are ways to think about them, because in Romanian we don't have like a linear way to think about things, which is, for example, a word will always have the same form no matter what happens to it. But in Romanian we have many ways, 5 to be precise. And those are obviously the nominative, the accusative, the dative, the genitive, and the vocative. Yeah, every single case has its own thinking framework. let's say. And with it, with great power comes great responsibility. When you start learning them, you need to put them in practice. And by that, I mean when you encounter, for example, when you start learning that, genitive is about relationships and dative is about giving and the receiver of the action, and vocative is when you shout at people and so on. You have to get into the practice of using them. And I know that's not straightforward, but some of them have equivalents in English. For example, when you have an exclamation mark at the end of a sentence, you can think it's vocative. When you have an apostrophe S, it definitely is a genitive. And when it has usually a preposition in front, it's either accusative or genitive. Sometimes can be dative, but you need to narrow those things down, get into the practice, do sit in front of the either computer or paper with your pen or your keyboard and practice this, ask ChatGPT and so on, because they are very important to get right. And yes, there are in Romanian some hacks around them that some I agree with more than others. For example, the usage of la instead of the actual dative. But, I created this channel to give you the correct grammatical form, and I'll do that and also present the hacks, because let's be honest, I'm definitely not a language Nazi, and I don't honestly care so much about the 100% accuracy, which is really pointless, I think, for anybody, because not even natives think or speak 100% correctly, but just as well as they can. And I think that's the takeaway you should get from cases as well. And to begin with cases, there is this link that you'll see in the description as well. It's not the prettiest, but it does explain and go through pretty much everything you need to know about cases. And it is in Romanian. As always, through Google Translate, you can go to translate it. And it does have some really weird, actually, translations here. But if you probably go and translate this through DeepL or ChatGPT, that should be better, given that, for example, the complements are actually objects and so on and so forth. But what this is really good at is giving you examples. And this is for dative. This is, I assume it's accusative here. There you have plenty of types of questions. Questions are something else you should really start thinking about, because if you don't understand the questions, like what question does this word answer to and so on, then I mean, you can repeat it. I mean, I have to be honest, I know people that they stayed surrounded by the language for like a few years, 2 or 3 years, without the others being able to speak English, and they have started speaking absolutely amazing Romanian just by hearing it, without knowing the rules. But if you're not in Romania and you're not surrounded and you're not forced to speak the language without having the chance to speak English, then I would really recommend learning and seeing these examples as a first step. And then after you got to know all of it, the vocative and the genitive, you can see they have really tiny titles here at the bottom, which is probably quite frustrating. The other thing you could do is look at season 11 to see more about what cases are and an explanation to each and every single one of them. This is a brief overview, and we will go into deep, and I mean really deep, analysis of the other cases soon. So we'll go through the nominative, the accusative, the genitive, the vocative, and so on. And the thing that I mentioned at the very beginning about the cases not being at kind of at their own thing, people, like in school, they don't really think, we don't have a lesson where we talk about cases. When we're in school, nobody comes to us and says, oh, today we're going to learn cases. That actually doesn't happen. And while it's good to understand, again, like while this season and the other resources are good to understand the idea of cases, you shouldn't really learn the cases on their own. They are like I'm gonna sound so stupid by saying this, but they're kind of like the fries next to your burger. They complement, they are kind of necessary. You can take them away, but they are kind of necessary when you use different words. And the burgers, if we follow this analogy, are the nouns, pronouns, prepositions, and so on. Even though verbs cannot have cases, they are strongly dependent. Not the cases depend strongly on verbs. Because that's where everything begins in a sentence when you talk about all those analyses. So this is another reason why in the Romanian essential grammar, that you find the link this in the description as well. This is why if you go through all of this contents, you'll actually not find any specific cases section, because that's not the way you should approach cases. However, as I said, we will try to get deeper into cases here, and hopefully in the other playlist, because we do consider all the cases. Like for example, in the preposition playlist, we have covered all of them, and depending on the cases, we will mention them there. Now, go back to the list. Hopefully this has cleared some of the fog. Hope you loved my analogy with the burgers and the fries. Definitely quite hungry. And let me know in the comments what you think about cases, where you are right now, if you have touched on them, if you were too scared to talk about them or to think about them. Guys, it's like with any fear. Any fear is, you need to go and work on it. Exposure is the only way. And we tick the box. Look at that. You already know more about cases. See you tomorrow with vocabulary, reading, and the other really interesting things from week 4. See you there. La revedere.